welcome to Exploring Santa Cruz, a bi-weekly program on KSQD 89.5, 89.7, and 90.7 FM, and of course online at ksqd.org. I'm your host, Mathilde Rand, and my guest is Michael Tree. Michael Tree has 30 years of experience in public transportation and city management. He's currently the CEO of Santa Cruz Metro and is leading a transformation of the agency to increase ridership to 7 million rides per year. You heard it right, 7 million rides per year. Buy zero-emission buses and develop more than 175 affordable housing units on Metro property. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So, Michael, can you give us a little bit more information about your experience in public transportation before you came to Santa Cruz?
Yes, I'd love to. I grew up in the Central Valley, a little town called Porterville. And after I finished up my bachelor's degree, the economy was pretty poor. So I went back to Porterville with my family, and my father and I put in a bid to run the transit system in the city of Porterville. So we operated about 7 fixed routes and a handful of dial-a-ride cars. So that was my start of public transit, although it did go back a little bit further than that. During my college days, I drove a 40-foot bus with mentally handicapped individuals, getting them to and from work job sites. Had a lot of fun in public transit. I've operated bus systems in the Palm Springs area in Southern California. I've also operated them as far north as Missoula, Montana, which is a real transit town with the University of Montana. And then most recently, I was in the Livermore, Dublin, Pleasanton area in the East Bay operating the bus system there, and then also as the executive director of a rail authority planning for a passenger rail project.
Both in Missoula and in Livermore, you've tried to increase the ridership?
Absolutely.
And
yes.
It worked?
Oh, my goodness, yes. It's the funnest part of the job is seeing more and more people enjoying their public transit.
And then what brought you to Santa Cruz?
The beauty, for sure. It's got to be the most beautiful place on earth. And I just think the potential here in Santa Cruz in the county to do a lot of special things with public transit are present. And I think that ultimately is what brought me here. Great people to work with and just like a palette that I felt like I could add to.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to that 7 million rides a year. How is Santa Cruz doing at this point?
We're coming out of the pandemic well at Santa Cruz Metro. We're heading towards 4 million rides a year. And we've recently gone through a public process called Reimagine Metro, where we're looking for faster, more frequent and reliable bus routes. If you learn nothing more about public transit today, that's what makes public transit work for everyone, is when it's fast and frequent and reliable. So we're straightening out the routes to make them faster. We're going to add signal priority at the intersections to keep them moving. More frequent buses. We're planning 3 routes going across basically the county at 15-minute headways or 15-minute frequency. So you get a bus every 15 minutes. And of course, we're working on replacing buses and having greater reliability in the fleet.
Which route numbers would that be where 15 minutes frequency is happening right now?
We have completely reimagined what the metro routes are through the public process. And if you go online to Santa Cruz Metro's website, you can see them. But basically, they come across from Capitola through Live Oak into the downtown area and then up to the university, all 3 of them. So it's a 1-seat ride wherever you are to the downtown and then to the university. But if you can imagine 3 routes running in parallel, that would be the 1, the 2, and the 3. So it'll be exciting.
And that's going to happen when?
We're getting public comment right now on that phase 2, if you will, Reimagine Metro, and we're hoping to start phasing that in as early as April of 2024. And the estimates are on the ridership modeling that will get us to 7 million.
Excellent. But you have done other things. You've done something with youth?
Yes. So youth cruise free on the bus system. So if you're a youth in junior high and high school, you're looking for how to get around the county, you're free on Metro. So just come and enjoy the transit system. That has taken youth ridership up over 400% since we introduced it a few months ago. And then we also have the One Ride at a Time program, which has been of a lot of interest to people. You may have seen the buses cruising around with the wraps on them of the beautiful photography from France, Lanting, and some others. And basically, in a partnership with the Regional Transportation Commission and with our vendors, for every 25 rides you take on Metro, a contribution of $10 is given on your behalf to the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary and the Bay of Life Fund. So a great way of helping the environment as you enjoy your ride. And that's fun to think that you're contributing to the health of the environment when you ride Metro.
And you get to look at these beautiful, beautiful photos on these buses. It's amazing.
They're fantastic. We've done 16 buses. We have another 15 to go. We'll probably do a few more than that just based on their popularity, but they're beautiful. They're works of art.
And so how do young people know that they can ride for free?
If you go online, it's called Youth Cruise Free. If you go on to the Santa Cruz Metro website, you can read about it there. And then just great radio publicity like yourself, Mathilde, that is getting the word out.
Of course, also outreach to the schools.
Absolutely. So we're working with the schools and information flows through them about the program.
Safer for kids on the road.
Convenient too. You got a regular bus schedule, go out, grab the bus and get used to it, have fun with it. And then on your days off, like on Saturday, Sunday, you can just explore the county.
That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
What a great way to do it. And if you have a bike, put the bike on the bus and ride down from Felton or...
Really convenient.
So we'll get there, the 7 million. Let's talk about the September 22nd board meeting. The board approved the purchase of hydrogen fuel cell electric buses. Tell the listeners first, what kind of buses are those? And then tell us the reason why.
Great question. We currently have a small fleet of battery electric buses. So these are buses that really are just full of batteries, and you charge them at night, and the batteries drive the electric motor during the day, and then you park them and charge them again at night. And a hydrogen bus is the same concept in that you have batteries on the bus, but you have a fuel cell, and the hydrogen is put in the vehicle much like natural gas is put in our current vehicles, and the hydrogen flows to the fuel cell, and the fuel cell just simply converts it to electricity that's stored in the battery that then drives the bus. So they're both electric buses, but a hydrogen bus, its characteristics which make it preferable for our board is that it's a lot lighter. There's quite a bit less batteries in it, about 11,000 pounds per vehicle lighter, so that's great on the public roads.
11,000 pounds.
Isn't
lighter?
that amazing? But there's other characteristics that just make it favorable for heavy-duty vehicles like a bus, and that is that you can actually fuel a hydrogen bus in 8 minutes as opposed to charging a bus all night long. The buses that are hydrogen go further. So a typical day would see a hydrogen bus on one fuel up go 300 to 350 miles, whereas a battery electric bus, although they're improving, they're about 150 to 175 miles. So we don't have to buy as many buses. We can cover more area with a hydrogen bus. And then also resiliency was a big deal with the board. With a hydrogen fueling station, if the power goes out, you can literally power it up again with a generator. If your electricity's out for whatever reason in a natural disaster for more than a couple of days, you're still going with hydrogen buses, whereas a battery electric bus, you'd just have them all parked. There'd be no way to charge that many buses with generators. So I think those are the reasons why the board went with the hydrogen bus. The downside or the disadvantage between a hydrogen bus and a battery electric bus is currently electricity is a little cheaper. So they're a little cheaper to operate, and currently they're a little cheaper. Typical hydrogen bus is about $1.4 million.
Because they're new, is that why they're more expensive?
Yeah, just a new technology, and a battery electric bus is like 1.3, 1.35, so a little bit cheaper. So those might be some of the disadvantages of the hydrogen buses. But overall, the board really felt like the advantages outweighed the disadvantages, especially when they contemplated their membership with Arches, which is an organization that comes together to produce green hydrogen and disseminate it out to its consortium partners. And the hope is to get the pricing way down on green hydrogen through Arches.
I understand there's gray and there's green. Tell us maybe first, where does the hydrogen come from?
There's quite a few colors of hydrogen, and green is the most environmentally favorable, right? You get green hydrogen through solar panels, photoelectrolysis. You can get it through wind power, through windmills. But that's the greenest way to produce hydrogen. And then, of course, when you're talking about a brown hydrogen, you're into using natural gas to produce hydrogen. Right now, most hydrogen's produced using natural gas, but there are paths to get the hydrogen more green. And in fact, with our membership in ARCHES, the federal government and the state government just came together to provide a path in the future for all of Metro's hydrogen to be green hydrogen and to be at a very favorable price.
Right. Both buses, I understand, the electrical and the hydrogen fuel cell ones, they also use some conversion of when the buses break. Like in my electrical car, it is the regeneration.
Yes. Yeah, just like a typical electric passenger car, when you take your foot off the accelerator, there's regenerative braking, which basically creates electricity and sends it back to the battery. Right. So in essence, you're charging your battery as you're slowing down. And both the battery electric bus and the hydrogen buses have this regenerative braking, which is great for wear and tear on the bus, like your brake pads, don't have to replace them as often, but also just to get more range out of the bus.
When I drive my electrical car, I barely use my brakes. I'm not sure if it's that easy for a bus because they're a little heavier and they may have to brake more often.
They do, but I'll tell you, the operators love the buses. Whether it's a battery electric bus or these future hydrogen buses that are coming in, it's instant torque when you put your foot on the gas. It's just instantly responsive, so there's no lag. And they really like that ability to predict better in the acceleration. And then, of course, with the deceleration, you just use a lot less brake, like you mentioned. It's smoother on the braking.
There are some other things that you're doing and other countries, cities are doing, is to make the bus ride more comfortable and also more comfortable for the chauffeurs, for the operators. Mm-hmm. And there's this one thing that when you come to a stoplight, the bus is on the right lane, and then when the lights go, the light for the bus goes first. So it means they can get a head jump on the rest of the traffic. I think that's so smart. I mean, people think all kinds of ways to make public transportation more acceptable and faster than driving cars.
That is a really fun technology. It's called a Q jump in the transit lingo, and it's exactly that. A bus just goes into the right-hand turn lane, and then it'll get a special signal ahead of the other signal, a green signal for the cars going in the same direction, and it literally just gets an opportunity to leap right out in front. We installed a lot of those Q jumps in the Tri-Valley area in the East Bay in my previous agency that I worked for, and we're also looking for lots of opportunity to install them here in Santa Cruz County. So along with the transit signal priority, which borrows a couple of seconds to advance a green or to delay a green to get a bus through the intersection, the Q jumps are just a fantastic way of highlighting a bus, right? Just highlighting that opportunity to have a little bit of preference.
Before we go on, I'd like to tell the listeners that they're listening to Michael Tree on Exploring Santa Cruz. I'm your host, Mathilde Rand, and we're discussing all the new developments, exciting developments at the Santa Cruz Metro. And later on, we're going to explore what you're doing with housing and what you're doing with these special buses. What are the advantages and disadvantages of the hydrogen fuel? We talked about it a little bit, but compare them to diesel.
To diesel. All right, you're throwing me some curveballs here. This is good. I love it. A hydrogen bus has no tailpipe, and so does a battery electric bus. So that is the biggest difference, is the pollutants coming out of the tailpipe of a diesel bus are much more impactful at a local level than a bus that has no tailpipe at all. And so I think that's the big one. Metro's really sensitive about the environment. We're doing everything we can to protect and to clean the environment. And having no tailpipe really is kind of like the basics of how you get started on that, even though it's expensive. We've been really creative at the transit agency to find a lot of state and federal and alternative funding. For example, you mentioned the bus purchase in September. That was 57 hydrogen buses, about $80 million of purchase, and all of it but $900,000 was paid for by the state and the federal government and some VW money from their settlement. I just have a fantastic team at Metro that knows how to just leverage in multiple ways local money to get big federal and state money. I have to come back to that purchase of 57 buses. It was historic in a variety of ways. And in a couple of conferences in Europe, they were actually talking about that purchase here in Santa Cruz. Historic because no one's ever bought 57 buses on one occasion that are hydrogen in North America or South America for that matter for a public transit agency. And then of that 57 buses, 9 of them are hydrogen articulated buses, which are longer buses. They're the 60-foot buses instead of the 40-foot, and they have the little accordion in the middle, so they carry many more people, and those will be fantastic to have the university students here at Santa Cruz.
So I have fewer cars on the road.
I tell you what, students love public transit. They love Metro, and it's the biggest disheartening thing we have at Santa Cruz Metro for our staff is when we leave people behind at a bus stop. And so we need those articulated buses. UC Santa Cruz is just a fantastic partner with Metro, and so we're excited to get those buses carrying more people.
Yes. More people on the bus, fewer people on the street in our cars, and I can ride my bike.
The chancellor at the university, she ought to feel free to tell freshmen and sophomore students, leave your car at home. Metro's got you covered, especially with these new routes that run on a 15-minute frequency. That's world-class service.
Right. Quick question. In California, where do we find fuel cell buses?
Great question. So there's only a few properties or transit agencies. AC Transit in Oakland has had the hydrogen buses the longest, and they have a small fleet of about 20 of them. Orange County Transit Authority, OCTA, has a few hydrogen buses. And then the only other place I'm aware of that's up and running them is in Bakersfield, of all places, with the Golden Empire Transit. But by far, when we take delivery of 57 of them, we'll be the agency with the largest hydrogen fleet in the nation.
You've received grants from the state and from the federal government. You're doing something else with that too, right? It's not only for the buses that you're getting the grants. What are you doing in Watsonville and Santa Cruz to develop ridership?
Wherever you have fast and frequent and reliable transportation, you're going to have people who want to live adjacent to that service. It gives a family that maybe has 2 cars the perfect opportunity to go to one. Or maybe it gives a family an opportunity to go to none if they both work downtown or both work at the university. So we are really interested, focused, excited about transit-oriented development, and the board set a goal to have 175 affordable housing units developed on Metro property by the end of the decade. So we have a great partner with the city of Santa Cruz. We'll be breaking ground with our partners on 124 affordable housing units where the Santa Cruz Metro Transit Center is currently in the downtown area. We'll redevelop that site to have the affordable housing in combination with the transit center. So that's going to be a beautiful addition to the downtown. And then if we go a little further south in the county, the Watsonville Transit Center is in their downtown, and we're going to completely scrape that property and redevelop it with 65 affordable housing units, and also reconfigure the bus system in that redevelopment project. And then finally, as if that wasn't enough, but that gets us to 175, but we have a property at SoCal and Highway 1. We're in the design stage for 65 additional affordable housing units. So about 240 housing units under development at Metro.
And who would be living in those affordable homes?
They will be the lowest of the affordability on the scale in the Santa Cruz Metro property in downtown Santa Cruz. In Watsonville, it's yet to be determined. We're still going through the public process, if you will, with the city. And then also undetermined at this point in the SoCal Highway 1 project.
So more people on the bus, people living closer to where the bus rides.
Yep.
And then what? What else do you have in your back pocket?
The most important is that fast, frequent, and reliable transit system. And I think we'll need the community's help on that in our partnerships with the community. Then our one ride at a time, obviously supporting our partners who protect the environment and the wildlife in the Monterey Bay. That's important. We're trying to get it to $1 million of contributions in the next 5 years. I think we'll get there between our vendors contributing and our partnership with the Regional Transportation Commission. And I wouldn't mind at some point, Mathilde, we haven't fully explored this with the board yet, but we went fare free in Missoula, Montana, and the ridership went up about 60%. I would love to get the ridership on Metro up around 9 million, not just 7. And to get there, you'd need to do fare free. And I think that's just worth a discussion with the public. I've always found it odd that those who can least afford transportation, we charge them every time they walk in the door at Metro. And why don't we just have a transportation that is free for all, where everyone is on an equitable stance as far as getting good quality transportation within the county?
So you mentioned Missoula. That's where you did it, right?
Yeah.
How did Missoula and you go about it?
So in Missoula, it was driven predominantly by the mayor of Missoula, John Ingen, and basically, he set up a partnership with key businesses in town, and they did like a 1-year demonstration project. And the public reacted so well to the demonstration project that it actually just became a ballot measure, and the residents themselves voted to have the Missoula Mountain Line system be zero fare. And so it was the residents actually who basically put that in place.
Is it free for everyone or just people who live in Missoula?
It is free for everyone.
So you go to Missoula, you ride for free.
Yeah, and they have a fantastic system. They put in place that 15-minute frequency that goes to the university there and to their downtown, which is pretty dense and compact and has a lot of people working there. And they just love the system there.
Well, I can imagine. I would love it.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you want to contact Michael Tree, his email address is mtree@scmtd.com. mtree@scmtd.com. And SCMTD stands for
Santa Cruz Metropolitan Transit District. What a mouthful.
We have a few minutes for some final thoughts.
Yeah.
What else is on your mind?
Well, I'll tell you, the public process for Phase 2 is getting ready to go live, probably another 45 days, and we'll be working with focus groups, working with the public on surveys that you can take online at our website, working with community meetings. And I'd love to see the public come out and take a good look at what a world-class transit system looks like. You'll see it on that Phase 2 as you look at the mapping of how the routes would be straight, how they would be frequent, and how you can get around Santa Cruz County very quickly. Love to get your feedback on that. Again, I think the board will look to consider approving that Phase 2 of the Reimagined Metro as early as December at their December meeting for an April implementation. And I would think that would be one of the most important things you could do is get involved, make sure the board members who are elected officials know that you want a good, fast, frequent bus system that's reliable and world-class. I couldn't imagine a more fantastic place to have a world-class bus system than right here in Santa Cruz. And so I'm excited about that. And if you'd like to get more engaged and involved with One Ride at a Time and help our riders and our partners with protecting the environment, I'd love to hear from you. Love to work with you on that. I think that's just a fantastic and unique opportunity as well, knowing that every ride you take, there is a contribution to our partners, as well as just your environmental impact of riding public transit.
So many more reasons to stay here in Santa Cruz.
Yes.
For you.
My
and
goodness.
Your family.
Our family loves Santa Cruz.
Okay.
Love Santa Cruz.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I like your ideas, and I'm sure you have ups and downs that needs to be worked through. But I think the most important thing that you're focusing on is the public needs to get involved. And then the public can get what it wants and what it needs.
I hope if anyone ever has an opportunity to ride, as they're riding, if they ever see anything that worries them or is bothersome, I hope they email me quickly so that I can fix things. Mm-hmm. There's over 300 employees at Metro, 175 drivers, and that's our main goal is customer service and hoping that people have a great time on Metro.
They're sure nice whenever I ride the bus.
Yeah.
And they see a lot of different situations, and they just maneuver through it without any anger or being upset. You've been listening to Exploring Santa Cruz with Michael Tree, CEO of Santa Cruz Metro. Our topic of discussion was the new developments in public transportation, zero-emission buses, and the development of more than 175 affordable housing units on Metro property. And of course, as Michael says, you can email him with complaints, congratulations, or whatever you want to say, input on the new lines at m3@scmtd.com. Thank you, Michael, for being here. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.